In the morning, an Orthodox bishop, in the evening, a Freemason. Updated information and more proves that the Metropolitan of Milan was a Freemason. Proof that the founder of the so-called Synod of Milan, Metropolitan Evlogios, Klaus Hessler, was a Freemason. Also, here is another article based on the investigation of the Italian state against the Masonic lodges during the scandal of the Propaganda 2 secret super lodge in Italy, where they talk about Brother Hessler. Google.com. An excerpt from the article. Monsignor Evlogi explains that towards the end of January 1978, due to his many commitments as Archimandrite of the Russian Orthodox Church in Milan and Dean of all the churches of the Patriarchate of Moscow in Italy, he asked for a period of leave from Masonic activities. Then, at the beginning of January 1979, he returned to the order and was unanimously elected Worshipful Master of his lodge. Then the pot pour. Far Luigi Savona, 33 degrees, awakened him to the 7th degree of the Italian Philosophical Rite, RFI, making him enter again into the Supreme Esoteric Council of the same RFI. Therefore, Hessler, 33 degrees, asks Prince Aliata, 33 degrees, to be reinserted into his Supreme Council, RSA, cf. Pass 809. The Anselmi Commission also acquired 2 Masonic passports of Mons. Klaus Evlogi Hessler, born in Dortmund, Germany, on the 21st of February 1935. Dated Rome, 03 June 1977. That of Master Mason, Serenissima Gran Loggia Nazionale, Italiana degli Antichi Liberi, Accettati, Masonic Comunione di Piazza del Gesù, and that of member of the Supreme Council of the Sovereign Grand Inspectors, General of the RSAA Comunione Italiana di Piazza del Gesù, CFP 810. 0.1 inches. The original documents can be downloaded from the Italian government website that includes more than 10.000 pages of investigation, with original documents seized by the Italian police regarding the Masonic lodges in Italy and their activities. Legislature.camera.it. Evlogios is also well known for ordaining an openly homosexual man, Giovanni Mapelli, that was refused even by the papist for his sodomite way of life. Document of ordination and photo of Evlogios praying together with Mapelli are linked in the photos. The Milan Synod. The term Milan Synod refers to the heretical, autonomous Orthodox Metropolia of Milan, Western Europe, and the Americas, a fragment of the short-lived West European diocese of the genuine Orthodox Church of Greece, which soon united itself to world pseudo-orthodoxy, see the menu at left, and fell into the heresy of ecumenism. The Milan Synod claims its origin from BPS, Gabriel, Tiago, and Teodoro of Portugal, and the autonomous Western European diocese, created under them in 1984 by Archbishop Auxentios of Athens. The Portuguese bishops ordained 2 Italians and a Frenchman, Evlogios of Milan, Gregorios of Turin, and Vigile of Paris, that same year. In 1985, the genuine Orthodox Church of Greece deposed Archbishop Auxentius for simony in the ordination of the homosexual Dorotheos Tsakos, and elected Chrysostom Kiosis as Archbishop of Athens in Auxentios's place. It is unclear if the autonomous West European diocese recognized the deposition of Archbp Auxentios or the elevation of Archbp Chrysostom Kiosis, or continued with the deposed Archbp Auxentios, or simply recognized no head, autocephalus, and lost contact. Regardless, the West Europeans soon departed the faith into the bosom of world orthodoxy and ecumenical heresy. In 1989, their Archbishop Gabriel of Lisbon, along with Bishops Tiago and Teodoro, apostatized and joined the ecumenist and uncanonical Orthodox Metropolia of Poland, a part of the heretical ecumenical patriarchate. So fell the Portuguese. Roughly at the same time, the Italian and Parisian bishops Evlogios, Gregorios, and Vigile established communion with the uncanonical Ecumenist Ukrainian Orthodox Church of America, also part of the heretical ecumenical patriarchate, followed by their establishment of canonical communion with the Ecumenist Patriarchate of Kiev in 1994. The official documents of the Milan Synod, now under Metropolitan Evlogios of Milan, since at least that time have recognized the Ecumenisti Patriarchates of world orthodoxy as valid and sister churches. Besides ecumenical activities with Roman Catholics and world pseudo-orthodox, the Milan Synod's ecumenism has lately reached beyond them, even to the monophysites. Archbishop Evlogios 2005, fraternal message to all bishops of the Oriental, Monophysite and Byzantine churches, vigorously attacks the authority of the Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Seventh ecumenical councils, as well as the orthodoxy of Saint Leo of Rome, completely recognizes unity with monophysitism, and decries the 15 centuries-long lack of unity in the Church of Christ, which it demands be restored, by immediate union and capitulation to the monophysites. All indications are that the head of the Milan Synod, Evlogios, is a Freemason, since he encouraged one of his priests to become a member of the lodge. He also has no care for the purity of the clergy, since he ordained to the episcopacy the notorious homosexual activist Giovanni Mapelli. In consequence of all this, and also its one-time communion with the heretical group known as the Synod of Resistors under Metropolitan Cyprian of Philly, no one can rightly consider the Milan Synod an option for those seeking true orthodoxy. And the Milan Synod rightly finds a place on this website with all its other sister church heretics and schismatics. Eulogios of Milan, 2005, Fraternal Message to Ecumenists and Monophysites. The encyclicals below contain an official boast that a bishop the Milan Synod ordained was received by the OCA without a consecration, and a 4-page encyclical entitled A Fraternal Message to All Bishops of the Oriental and Byzantine Churches, which are all members of the same Orthodox Church, the Church of Christ, lambasting the Ecumenists for not being fast enough in implementing their union with the Monophysites. This encyclical was dated the 1st of March 2005 on official letterhead, officially stamped and sealed by Eulogios, Metropolitan of Aquileia, Archbishop of Milan Primate, taken from orthodoxy.it in the middle of the summer of 2006. The true apostolic succession, deriving from the Russian Church in exile of the bishops of the autonomous Metropolia of Aquileia and Milan. The first bishops of the Greek Orthodox Church, Old Calendar, came in 1935 from the Greek State Church. After the death of the first primate, Archbishop Chrysostomos of Florina, in 1955, 3 bishops of the Russian Church in exile assured through their consecrations the apostolic succession of the Greek Old Calendarian Church and of its autonomous Metropolia of Europe, Milan Aquileia, as it's proved by the fact that other 7 official Orthodox churches have recognized the validity of our sacraments, accepting bishops, priests, and deacons in their dignity without any kind of reconsecration. So, the non-canonical reconsecrations of some of our clergy are only acts of vindictiveness or revenge, unluckily not unknown in ecclesiastic ambience. 1960. Archbishop Seraphim Ivanov of Chicago of the Russian Church in exile, together with Archbishop Theophilos Ionesco, consecrates to the 19th of December, 1960. Bishop Akakios Papas, Archbishop Leonti Filipovich of Santiago in Chile, former archimandrite of Podchayev, Ukraine, is consecrated Bishop of Zhytomyr, Ukraine, in the Russian Church of Moscow in 1941. In 1943, persecuted by the Soviet government, he fled to Europe and later to the USA. 1962. Archbishop Leontyj of the Russian Church in exile and Archbishop Akakios, second primate of the Greek Orthodox OC Church, recognized by the Greek government, consecrate in May several bishops for the Greek Old Calabos Church, and among them Avexentios of Gardikaia, consecrated the 25th of May 1962. In 1963, Archbishop Akakios died, and Metropolitan Avexentios became the 3rd primate of the Greek OC Church. 1969, the 31st of December, 1969, the Holy Synod of the Russian Orthodox Church in exile, in a letter addressed to HB Archbishop Avexentios, recognizes officially the consecrations of the bishops Seraphim in 1960 and Leontai in 1962. Recognizing the apostolic succession in the Greek OS Church, an ecclesiastic communion has been established between the 2 sister churches. An authenticated copy of this historical document is the Archives of the Metropolia of Milan. 1978. Archbishop Avexentios, together with the Metropolitans Gerontios, Callistos, and Antonios, founds the new Metropolia of Spain, later of Milan and Aquileia, and consecrates Bishop Gabriel of Portugal on May 19, 1978. 1984. His beatitude, Archbishop Avexentios, together with the Metropolitans Gabriel, Maximos, Gerasimos, and Kalinikos, consecrates for Europe a second bishop, Tiago of Coimbra, in March 17, 1984. In September of the same year, HB Archbishop Avexentios entrusts in the name of the Holy Synod the two bishops in Portugal, Metropolitan Gabriel and Archbishop Tiago, with the consecration of Evlogios of Milan, the 9th of September 1984, and Gregorio of Turin, the 23rd of September. On 27 September, HB Avexentios proclaims in the name of the Holy Synod the ecclesiastic autonomy of the Metropolia of Western Europe. HB Gabriel of Portugal becomes the first primate until his resignation in 1989. The 27th of September 1990, Archbishop Evlogios of Milan was elected second primate. The day after, with Archbishop Gregorio and Bishop Vigila, Evlogios consecrated Bishop Lazar of Canada, who was later, the 24th of May 2002, accepted as bishop, with Bishop Varlam in the OCA without any form of reconsecration. The 1st of March 2005, a fraternal message to all bishops of the Oriental and Byzantine churches, which are all members of the same Orthodox Church, the Church of Christ. How is it possible that the two branches of orthodoxy are still separated one from the other, in spite of the fact that 12 years ago, the question of our final union was considered only a question of time? What are the reasons of this strange silence concerning the final efforts of both branches to realize the final union, which we must not forget? Is the will not a pious desire of the divine founder of the Church? Is it perhaps true, following certain rumors, that the union of our two branches should harm interests of power, jurisdictional or not, of certain patriarchates which prefer the actual situation in defense of interests which are not of a spiritual nature? We must give a short look to the history of the Church, and we discover that at any moment, human weaknesses, jealousy, power, hate, and money have obscured and still obscure the divine image of the Church of Christ. Remember, dear brethren of the Episcopate, the First Ecumenical Council of Nicaea in 325, when during this important synod the hierarchy of the apostolic sees have been established: Rome, Alexandria, and Antioch. Rome the first see because of the capital of the empire and see of the Senate. We ascertain here the political reason of the privilege to be the first see. When 5 years later a second capital of the empire has been founded, it was absolutely following this political argumentation that this second Rome, Constantinople, had to occupy the second see, in spite of the fact that Constantinople was not of apostolic origin and a pure imperial or political foundation. Alexandria, apostolic see of a great, powerful, and flourishing church, relegated with violence for mere political reasons to the third position in the hierarchy of the universal church, was one of the principal reasons for a tragic conflict between the old apostolic see and a new church with a political background and whose empire was even an enemy of Egypt. Both Rome and Alexandria protested against interference of the emperor in ecclesiastical matters, but without success. The ascension of the Church of Constantinople shows us to what extent the position of a church is not always of a spiritual nature. The political rivalry between Alexandria and Constantinople transferred from political level to matters of the Church and prepared for the historical division between the two branches of orthodoxy. When the Church of Alexandria was accused, about 120 years after the foundation of the Imperial Church of Constantinople, of teaching the heresy of monophysism during the Council of Chalcedon, we once again have proof of how political interests and rivalry can prepare a division in the Church. It is not my intention to give an historical report about the heresy of monophysism and how the invented accusation was to a large extent an occasion to discriminate against the Church of Alexandria, whose position in the Universal Church disturbed Pope Leo I, who at that time, as the first Pope of Rome, began to teach his superiority over all other churches. Alexandria disturbed even the Emperor of the Second Rome, which was occupying Egypt and the Orient, and the Patriarch of Constantinople, whose constant will and intention was to impose his political power over all the Oriental churches. Its authority was only political, like the kind of its origin as imperial church. Orthodoxy is divided since more than 1500 years. This shameful division should be very embarrassing for both branches, as this division is not of a theological nature, since we both have recognized that we belong to the same church. In many occasions we have discovered our common Orthodox faith, our deep theological union in the light of an important fact. The monophysism that seemed to be the reason for our division has never been the official doctrine of the Oriental Orthodox churches. This is the common belief as a result of theological meetings as those of Aarhus in 1964, Bristol in 1967, Geneva in 1970, Addis Ababa in 1971, Chambasy in 1985, and the important meeting in the Coptic monastery of Wadi el-Matron in Egypt, where both branches prepared a document of historical importance concerning a common agreement of Christology, which aim was to put an end to all mutual accusations and condemnations, which in light of this agreement should not have any more reason to exist. It was in 1990 that both churches signed this document. At that time, it was a commonly held belief that now after this historical agreement, the union of both churches should only be a question of time. In spite of all positive signs, we ascertain a great silence in this important matter between two families of orthodoxy. To our question to know the reason for this strange silence, we have never received a clear answer from either side. Our surprise becomes still greater when we hear opinions from bishops of our church who talk in a way that ignores completely the positive results of all these theological meetings we have mentioned before. In this strange climate, we asked what could be the reason that nobody affirms with energy and conviction the necessity of union between the two Orthodox churches. We realize that the union of our Orthodox churches is not only a great spiritual joy and satisfaction for our churches, but asks from us even sacrifices and acts of true humility, generally a rather unknown virtue in ecclesiastical hierarchical ambiances. First of all, we must resolve the problem of the position of the Church of Istanbul-Constantinople, which has deprived, with arrogance and violence, the Church of Alexandria of its position as second church in the universe and first church between all the Oriental churches. This great act of injustice must be cancelled, offering to Alexandria to get back its position granted by the Council of Nicaea. The great historical Church of Alexandria, with its true origin as an apostolic church, should be a worthy leader of world orthodoxy, with its 10 to 12 million of faithful. Constantinople has a worse destiny. As a local church in Turkey, it has not more than 2,000 to 3,000 faithful, equal to a small parish in Athens. We all know that the church in Istanbul has developed throughout the centuries a system of administrative superiority over all other Orthodox churches, which does not agree with the pretension and interpretation of the 28th canon of Chalcedon. This kind of system to govern orthodoxy on a world level should never have been mentioned to our Oriental brethren. They could not even understand this theory. The recent event in which the Patriarch of Istanbul, in a matter of divergence of jurisdictional rights concerning the Church of Greece, has excommunicated the Archbishop of Athens last year without consulting the other Orthodox primates, shows clearly how much we are separated from true Orthodox ecclesiology. Many bishops in the Byzantine tradition of the Orthodox Church were scandalized because of the action of Bartholomeus of Istanbul, but no one had the apostolic courage to ask Bartholomeus on the name of what right he dared to act in that way without consultation with the other heads of the Orthodox churches. We must not forget that in Orthodoxy there is no room for any sort of papism. An honorary primate of the Orthodox churches cannot act as a pope. For this reason, just in the matter of ecclesiology, the union with the Oriental churches will be for us a great blessing and help us to free the church of obsolete privileges and every sort of colonialism. As we have already said, for the sake of our final union, we must be disposed to make sacrifices. We must find a solution for the position of the Church of Constantinople. In 20 to 30 years, the local Church of Istanbul will not have any viable number of faithful. The future of the local church cannot depend on communities in world diaspora. The development of orthodoxy in Western diaspora will finish in the creation of new Orthodox local churches in complete freedom and following the true principles of Orthodox ecclesiology. Once united in one Orthodox church, we must resolve some question in the practical order. For example, the Orthodox Church, finally united, cannot have two patriarchs of the same see. So there will be, as normal, one patriarch of the Apostolic See of St. Mark in Alexandria, and this patriarch will be, without doubt, the Pope and Patriarch of the Venerable Coptic Church. In Antioch, we will find, in a fraternal way, a solution, as the Syrian community and the Greek community of the same territory are groups with largely similar numbers of faithful, could resolve to have patriarchs of alternating ethnic groups succeed one another. These are only some examples that prove that where there are good and sincere intentions for the best of orthodoxy, a solution can be found. In practical terms, we cannot ignore that some local churches must face more sacrifices than others. Who in these cases talks about loss of power, money, jurisdictional restrictions, or influence of political nature, shows that he has not yet understood what is the true nature of the church. The only power in the church comes from the Holy Spirit. The common agreement of both Orthodox churches has shown a way that the Holy Orthodox Church can be united externally, being already united in matters of faith. The Orthodox churches of the Byzantine tradition will continue to confess their faith, following the 7 ecumenical councils. The Oriental churches will confess the common Orthodox faith with reference to the first 3 ecumenical councils, but accept at the same time the whole theological content of the other 4 councils, including the theology of the holy icons. We are saddened that almost nothing has been done to progress in the process of our unity. And sometimes we ask what could be the reason that this process of unity, following the will of our Lord, seems to be obstructed for poor human material reasons. We can only pray that this will not be true. At the same time, our bishops must interrogate their synods and ask their primates what they have done for this unity. God save our churches and illuminate our minds. In Aquileia, see of Saint Chromatios and Saint Paulinus, Patriarch Milan. See of Saint Ambrosius in the month of March 2005, plus Evlogios, Metropolitan of Aquileia, Archbishop of Milan, Primate. Something interesting about Met. Eulogios of Milan's conversion to the Greek Old Calendarists. Metropolitan Eulogios of Milan, formerly Klaus Hessler, was a priest of the Russian Orthodox Church for 13 years, from 1970 to 1983. His reason for leaving the jurisdiction of the Moscow Patriarchate was rather prosaic money. The municipal council of Milan raised the rent quite significantly on his church building in Milan. He asked Moscow for more money, but they never sent any, so he left Moscow and found a new church allegiance with a Greek Old Calendarist group which was willing to finance him. This is how it is explained on the official Milan website. In 1983, the municipality of Milan changed its canon of rent and augmented, in the case of the big Russian parish of St. Nicholas in Milan, the rent 70 times more. In this difficult situation, Archimandrite Evlogios asked for the first time a necessary financial help from his mother church of Moscow. Moscow seemed to have not the blessing of the KGB, which controlled the whole church life, especially abroad. And for this reason, Moscow Patriarchate abandoned completely the big parish of Milan and his head. The Archimandrite Evlogios was obligated to ask for help another Orthodox jurisdiction. There was not time enough for choice. Milan accepted the fraternal help of the Holy Orthodox Autonomous Metropolia of Western Europe, Greek Orthodox Church TOC, under his beatitude Metropolitan Gabriel of Lisbon, which was at that time the only true Orthodox church in Western Europe with a missionary spirit. Source: the Autonomous Metropolia of Milan, Synod of Milan of Russian origin. These days, the responsible of the external relations of the Moscow Patriarchate, Metropolitan Kirill of Smolensk, accused the Ukrainian Orthodoxy to be divided in 3 jurisdictions. This is true, but after the schism in the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, Bishop Kirill must ascertain his beloved Russian Orthodox Church is at the moment divided in 4 churches. 1. Russian Orthodox Church, Moscow Patriarchate, under his beatitude Alexei. 2. Russian Orthodox Church abroad, under his new primate, his beatitude Laris, USA. 3. Russian Orthodox Church in exile, under his primate, his beatitude, Metropolitan Vitali, Canada. 4. Russian Orthodox Autonomous Church, under his beatitude, Metropolitan Valentin of Sustal. But there is still another church of Russian origin, even if she don't call herself Russian. The Greek Orthodox Church of true Orthodox Christians, that is, the Greek Orthodox Church of the Old Calendar. This jurisdiction began its historical existence in 1923 when the liberal Patriarch of Constantinople, His Holiness Meletios Metaxaki, before Archbishop of Athens and later Patriarch of Alexandria, imposed with violence the new calendar in the Greek Orthodox Church. The Greek Orthodox Church of Old Calendar has not been founded as jurisdiction because of the violent introduction of the anti-canonical calendar, but was still from the beginning a sort of religious reaction against the heresy of that liberal politic of Constantinople, now Istanbul. Milan became part of this church only in the 1984. In 1972, Metropolitan Evlogios, at that time Hieromonk, founded with the blessing of his exarch, Metropolitan Antonij Blum of Suroj, the parish of Milan. In 1983, the municipality of Milan changed its canon of rent and augmented, in the case of the big Russian parish of St. Nicholas in Milan, the rent 70 times more. In this difficult situation, Archimandrite Evlogios asked for the first time a necessary financial help from his mother church of Moscow. Moscow seemed to have not the blessing of the KGB, which controlled the whole church life, especially abroad. And for this reason, Moscow Patriarchate abandoned completely the big parish of Milan and his head. The Archimandrite Evlogios was obligated to ask for help another Orthodox jurisdiction. There was not time enough for choice. Milan accepted the fraternal help of the Holy Orthodox Autonomous Metropolia of Western Europe, Greek Orthodox Church TOC, under his beatitude Metropolitan Gabriel of Lisbon, which was at that time the only true Orthodox church in Western Europe with a missionary spirit. Milan as parish, in his flock headed by the Starosta Alexandra Romanini, had ascertained the orthodoxy and the Russian origin of the apostolic succession in the Greek Orthodox Church ITOC. The first bishop of the Greek Orthodox Church of the Old Calendar came from the state church of Elis and was our first primate, Archbishop Chrysostomos of Florina. Archbishop Chrysostomos died in 1956, the 21st of September, in the day of the feast of the Nativity of the Most Holy Mother of God. as at that time the old Calendarian Orthodox Church was persecuted and controlled by the Greek state. Different bishops of the Church of Antioch died, and others returned to the state church because afraid. Bishops consecrated in the Greek Orthodox Church Teosk were accepted without any difficulties in the state church. So, at the moment of the death of Archbishop Chrysostomos, he left behind him a church composed from about 1 million of faithful, with hundreds of deacons, priests, monks, and nuns, but a church without bishops, a church without bishop. There was the big problem for those Orthodox faithful. For this serious situation, the Greek Orthodox Church of the Old Calendar made an urgent appeal to others, Orthodox sister churches, in order to guarantee its necessary apostolic succession. Finally, in 1962, hierarchs of the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, Archbishop Seraphim Ivanov and Archbishop Theophilus Ionescu, consecrated Bishop the Greek Archimandrite, Akakios Papas, in the 19th of December of the same year, St. Nicholas Day. As the Greek Church was persecuted by the government, all the archimandrites and priests were without passport. For this reason, in 1962, another Russian bishop, Archbishop Leonti of Chile, came in Greece and consecrated together with Bishop Akakios, different Greek bishops between them, Bishop of Avexentios. After Archbishop Chrysostomos of Florina, Archbishop Akakios became the second-first hierarch of the Greek Orthodox Church, TO, with the title of Archbishop of Athens and all Greece, Elis. His beatitude, Akakios, dead in 1963, and the Holy Synod of the Greek Orthodox Church elected the Metropolitan of Gordicaia Avexentios. His beatitude, KK. Avexentios I, Archbishop of Athens and all Elis, was the third first hierarch of the restored Greek Orthodox Church, anti-liberal and actually canonical. His beatitude, KK. Avexentios I, Archbishop of Athens, consecrated the 20th of May, 1962, by Archbishop Leonti of Chile and Archbishop of Athens Akakios in 1978, with others Metropolitans of the Holy Synod of Church of Elis, TOC, consecrated in Athens Archimandrite. Gabriel of Lisbon as Bishop of Lisbon, Portugal, and canonically founded the Holy Metropolia of Western Europe. In 1984, the 17th of March, his beatitude Avexentios I, together with His Eminence Metropolitan Gabriel and other bishops of the Holy Synod of the Church of Greece, TOC, consecrated Bishop Jacobus of Coimbra, Portugal. Still in the same year, his beatitude Avexentios decided with the Holy Synod of Greece to consecrate Bishop Evlogios of Milan and Bishop Gregorios of Turin. The 27th of September 1984, the 14th of September Old Style, the Holy Synod of Greece elevated with a tomos, the Holy Metropolia of Western Europe, into an autonomous Orthodox Church, and his beatitude Gabriel was appointed as first primate. In 1989, his beatitude Gabriel with all the Portuguese bishops were accepted as bishops in the Autocephalous Church of Poland, without any Kiritonia or Kirotesia. For the Church of Poland, the episcopate of the Metropolia was valid and canonical. 1 year later, Archbishop Evlogios of Milan was elected first hierarch of the Holy Orthodox Autonomous Metropolia of Western Europe. From this moment, the Autonomous Metropolia became completely independent, but still has fraternal relations and communicatio in sacris with the sister Church of Greece, Greek Orthodox Church DOC. The Autonomous Metropolia of Milan and Aquileia, Western Europe and America, had the privilege of its direct descendants from the official Greek Orthodox Church, true Orthodox Christians headed at the time of his Holy Tomos by his beatitude KK Avexentios I, Archbishop of Athens and all Elis. After the death of the first primate of the restored, true Orthodox Church of Greece, sadly the church who preserved the holy traditions in Greece, as now in Russia or in Ukraine, is divided in several synods, sometimes in war one with the others. Very pitiful image. One thing is sure, and we can prove it at any moment. Our Holy Church trough the main and canonical jurisdictions of the Church of Greece, Chrysostomos Akakios Avexentios, derives directly from the Russian Orthodox Church abroad. There is no doubt that the Russian Orthodox Church MP has always recognized the apostolic succession of the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, our mother church. In fact, in several times, the Holy Synod of the Russia Orthodox Church abroad recognized and officially confirmed with documents, you can find them in our website, the apostolic succession of our Holy Orthodox Church spiritual daughter of Greek and Russian Orthodox churches. There is no doubt that the Russian Orthodox Church Moscow Patriarchate has always recognized the apostolic succession of the Russian Orthodox Church abroad, our mother church. By the way, the last message of Patriarch Alexei II is written to his brethren bishops of the Russian Church abroad. For these reasons, two of our French priests, Father Gerard de la Garde and Father Joseph of Paris, ordained by our first primate, His Beatitude Gavril, were accepted as priests and deacon in the Russian Orthodox Church MP by the former Exarch of Western Europe, Metropolitan Vladimir Suaidan, who is now the Russian Metropolitan of Kiev. We are very astonished that real arguments of politics push certain Russian leaders to forget the Russian, and therefore the true apostolic origin of the Greek Orthodox Church, TOC. Will this signify that only bishops with Russian blood will be recognized as bishops? This should be a new form of philitism, which is nothing else as an heresy. It was in this sense that our first hierarch of the Holy Orthodox Autonomous Metropolia of Milan, His Beatitude KKK Evlogios, affirmed in his letter to Metropolitan Kirill of Smolensk that in the Church of God there are not two categories of apostolic succession, and that the question of sacramental and theological nature must never be answered with political arguments of power and money. What happens now? This jurisdictional war between Moscow and Constantinople, Istanbul, is simply a shame for orthodoxy because the reasons of this hostility between these two Orthodox churches are not divergences of faith, but simply questions of power. It is not with arrogance, we repeat again to Metropolitan Kirill, that we can resolve our divergences, but with humility and love. Without these necessary virtues, we will not be able to find the right solution. Men of churches can be wrong, as in the case of Milan. Apologize is a sign of greatness.